Have you ever wondered why some people seem to rise above the rest, while others, no matter how hard they work, stay trapped? It's not luck. It's not talent. It's power, hidden, ancient, and still undefeated. 500 years ago, a man named Niccolo Machiavelli whispered secrets meant for rulers and conquerors, but those same secrets can quietly make you rich, while the world thinks you're just ordinary. What I'm about to share isn't motivation, it's strategy. And once you hear it, you'll never see money, power, or people the same way again. Point 1. The fortress principle. Most people think security comes from a job, but Machiavelli would laugh at that idea. He'd say, the man who relies on one fortress is already conquered, because when your life depends on one income, one client, or one opportunity, you are not safe, you are owned. Imagine a medieval kingdom. Tall walls, loyal guards, shining banners. To the peasants outside, that fortress looks unbreakable. But Machiavelli knew the truth. A single fortress is a single point of failure. One crack in the wall, one betrayal inside, and everything falls. Now fast forward 500 years. Most people today have built their entire financial life around one fragile fortress, their job. Their income comes from one place, their security tied to one decision maker, and they call that stability. But that's not stability. That's captivity dressed as comfort. Machiavelli would say, the moment you depend on another man's permission to live, you've already given away your throne. And this applies not just to rulers, but to you. You see, real wealth isn't about stacking more coins. It's about building more fortresses, multiple income streams, not just as side hustles, but as pillars of sovereignty. Because when one fortress is attacked, you retreat to another. When one gate closes, another remains open. That's how kings survive. That's how silent millionaires move. Let's take a modern Machiavellian, someone like Elon Musk. He doesn't rely on one fortress. Tesla, SpaceX, Starlink X, each one is a citadel. If one falls, the empire stands. That's not greed. That's strategic architecture. But let's shrink that down to your world. You don't need empires. You need independence. Maybe you have one main job. That's your first fortress. But you can build your second fortress online. A skill, a business, a system that grows quietly. The third fortress could be investment-based. Assets that send income to you even when you sleep. The fourth could be intellectual. Knowledge or authority that brings people to you, not the other way around. Each fortress you build adds a layer of protection. And protection creates confidence. Confidence creates freedom. When your money comes from multiple directions, you stop fearing loss. You stop needing approval. You start speaking differently. You start walking differently. Because now, though, you are no longer a servant of the system. You are sovereign within it. Let's go deeper. Why do most people never build more than one fortress? Fear. The peasant mindset says, if I just work hard enough, my Lord will protect me. But Machiavelli would remind you, the Lord protects only as long as it serves his power. The moment it doesn't, you're disposable. That's why the first fortress you must build is mental. So it's the fortress of autonomy, the refusal to be owned by fear. Because once fear no longer rules your mind, you start seeing opportunity everywhere. Not as a gamble, but as strategy. Think about it. How many times have you silenced your own ideas, your own instincts, just because you were scared to lose your job? That's not caution, and that's captivity. And captivity kills creativity. You can't build empires with a survival mindset. So how do you build your fortress system? Assess your current walls. What's your main income source? That's fortress 1. Strong but vulnerable. Build a second fortress, something digital. A YouTube channel, a newsletter, a course, an online product. Something that works while you don't. Build a third fortress, something that multiplies. Investments, real estate, equity, something that grows quietly in the dark. Build a fourth fortress and your brand, because reputation is a fortress of its own. Machiavelli wrote, a prince must guard his reputation more fiercely than his city walls. Your name opens doors when your presence can't. Each fortress reinforces the others. You're not building for luxury. You're building for leverage. Machiavelli would look at the modern world and smile. He'd see millions of people guarding their single paycheck fortress, terrified of losing what little control they have, while the few who build multiple citadels quietly rise in silence. And here's the truth. Freedom doesn't come from earning more. It comes from depending less. The person with one fortress must beg to survive. The one with five that chooses when to conquer. So ask yourself tonight, are you living like a peasant, defending one fragile tower, or like a strategist, building your empire one fortress at a time? Because Machiavelli would tell you, the walls you build today determine whether you live as a servant or as a sovereign tomorrow. Point 2. The gatekeeper principle. Machiavelli once said, "It is better to be the one who opens the gates than the one who begs to enter." Everyone wants money, but very few realize the real power is not in having the gold. It's in controlling the gates that decide who gets it. Let's start with an image. Imagine a medieval city surrounded by walls of stone. Inside, gold trade influence opportunity. Outside, thousands waiting at the gates. Who do you think holds the real power? The king who owns the gold? Or the guard who decides who may enter? Machiavelli would say, power belongs to the one who controls access. And in today's world, that lesson hasn't changed. You can chase money all your life, or you can build the systems through which money flows. Because control is worth more than currency. Most people live their whole lives working inside someone else's system. Their job, a platform, a company. Someone else owns the gate and you're just allowed to walk through it when they say so. That's why you can be talented, smart, hardworking, and still powerless. Because talent gets paid, but gatekeepers get rich. Think about it. The musician gets a royalty, but the record label owns the rights. The writer gets views, but the platform owns the audience. The employee gets a paycheck, but the corporation owns the system. It's the same story in every century. The kings don't chase the gold. They build the roads to the gold and charge everyone else to walk on them. Let's look at the internet itself. Social media creators chase views. That's gold. But who are the real kings? The platforms, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, they control visibility, traffic, monetization. They own the gates. You can't reach your audience unless they open them. This is pure Machiavellian design. Give the people an illusion of freedom, but quietly keep the gates under your control. And here's the harsh truth. Most people will spend their entire lives trying to earn more, while the ones who built the gate systems don't work harder. They just decide who gets paid. That's the gatekeeper principle. The goal isn't to be the best in the system. It's to be the one who runs it. This idea changes how you think forever. When you're the gatekeeper, everything reverses. You no longer chase opportunities. They come to you. You no longer compete for permission. You give it, and the best part, people will thank you for letting them through your gates. That's how Machiavellian strategy works. Quietly, elegantly, and completely under your control. He wrote that a wise ruler must ensure others depend on his favor. That's not cruelty, that's stability. In money, this means creating something that others need to access. A platform, a brand, a product. Something that cannot be ignored, because others rely on it to reach their goals. It doesn't need to be massive. Even small gatekeepers wield power. A recruiter controls who gets jobs. A community leader controls who gets visibility. A software creator controls who gets access. The point is, you stop being one of the crowd. You become the passage everyone else must walk through. So how do you apply this? Stop trading time for money. The gatekeeper doesn't sell hours, he sells access. Ask yourself, what system can you build that others need to reach their goal? Build leverage through ownership. Own your brand. Own your data. Own your audience. Because if someone else controls those gates, your kingdom can vanish overnight. Shift from participant to provider. Stop asking, how do I get more clients? Start asking, how can I create something clients must pass through, even on a small scale? A newsletter, a YouTube channel, a specialized tool. Every gate you build multiplies your control. You stop asking for raises. You start creating your own economy. In the old days, peasants begged to enter the city. In our age, people beg algorithms for attention or bosses for approval. Different century. Same chains, Machiavelli would tell you. Be the one who owns the gates. Because when you control access, you no longer need to chase opportunity. You become the opportunity. So look around your life right now. Where are you waiting outside someone else's gate? And where could you quietly start building your own? The difference between a servant and a strategist is not wealth, it's leverage. And the one who holds the keys never needs to knock. Point 3, the ghost principle. Wealth without mystery is a liability. Have you ever noticed how the richest people in the room are often the quietest? Machiavelli would say, "Power that speaks too loudly invites its own destruction. The loud man shows his cards. The ghost controls the table." Let's begin with a simple truth. We live in an age of exposure. People don't just want success, they want it seen. But here's the paradox. The more you show, the weaker you become. Because every bit of attention you earn is also a vulnerability revealed. Machiavelli warned princes about this centuries ago, that visibility is a double-edged sword. To be feared or respected, one must appear virtuous, but never fully known. That's how real power survives, in shadows, not spotlights. So what does that mean for wealth? It means this: if everyone knows how rich you are, what you own, and where it comes from, you've already lost your greatest protection, mystery. The ghost principle teaches that your fortune should work quietly, like an invisible army. Let your lifestyle remain calm, unassuming, while your assets move, multiply, and grow behind the scenes, because in every era, it's the visible king who gets overthrown first. The unseen advisor, the ghost behind the throne, often outlives them all. Think of it like this. When a lion roars, every hunter knows where to aim. When he moves silently, the jungle belongs to him. In money, that silence is your armor. The moment you announce your success to the world, you invite envy, sabotage, and scrutiny. You hand your enemies the map to your vulnerabilities. That's why the truly powerful keep their moves quiet, their wealth hidden beneath layers of normalcy. Look at the patterns around you. How many people do you see posting every purchase, every win, every luxury online? They think they're celebrating. In truth, they're surrendering piece by piece, their privacy, their leverage, their mystery. Now contrast that with the quiet ones, the person who dresses simply but owns the building you work in. The one who never brags but whose name sits quietly on 10 companies. That's Machiavellian wealth. Silent, strategic, untouchable. When people underestimate you, you gain an invisible advantage. They relax their guard. They speak freely. They show you who they really are. Machiavelli would call this the art of useful invisibility. It's the tactic of letting the world misjudge you, while you quietly collect their secrets, their patterns, and their mistakes. In a sense, you stop being seen as rich and start being treated as powerful. Here's the deeper layer. The ghost principle isn't just about hiding money. It's about controlling perception. The goal isn't to disappear, it's to design what others think they see. You can appear humble, approachable, even ordinary, while quietly controlling everything around you. That's not deceit. That's protection. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must appear virtuous, generous, and moral, but internally be guided by strategy, calculation, and silence. Why? Because appearances are the leash by which you lead others. The same rule applies today. You let others talk loudly about their plans and their profits. You nod, smile, and listen. And while they seek validation, you seek advantage. Their need for attention is your cover. Their noise is your camouflage. And when the storm comes, when the market shifts, the economy crashes, or trends die, you'll still be standing. Because ghosts don't panic. They adapt. So how do you live by the ghost principle? Separate lifestyle from wealth. Don't spend to signal. Spend to strengthen. Buy assets that work for you silently, not symbols that speak for you loudly. Operate through layers. If you have a business, build it under brands, entities, systems. Don't tie your name to every move. The less they can trace, the freer you become. Let your results whisper. The powerful don't tell you they're powerful. You feel it when they enter the room. That's presence, earned through quiet mastery, not noise. The modern world rewards visibility, but the next level of wealth rewards discretion. While the loud ones fight for applause, the silent ones are buying the theater. So stop chasing the spotlight. Be the shadow that controls it. Because when your wealth becomes invisible, your influence becomes unstoppable. Point 4. The litmus test. Use money to reveal true character. Give a man a little power and he'll show you who he truly is. Machiavelli knew it. Wealth doesn't change people. It exposes them. Machiavelli spent his life studying rulers, soldiers, and servants, and he discovered something timeless. Words can lie. Intentions can be faked. But behavior under the smallest taste of power never deceives. That's the essence of the litmus test. In politics, he used loyalty tests. In wealth, we use money, not to buy trust, but to measure it. Because here's the truth, your greatest financial risk is not the market, the economy, or even bad luck. It's trusting the wrong person. One weak link, one dishonest partner, one greedy ally can destroy a fortune faster than any recession. Machiavelli would tell you, test before you trust. And the most revealing test of all is how someone handles money. Here's the principle. Give someone a small opportunity, a small amount of control, a small reward. Then watch. Don't listen to their promises. Observe their reactions. A loyal person will treat a little power with humility and care. A pretender will treat it like a crown. The same applies in business, friendships, or even family. You lend a small amount. They delay repayment, make excuses, act entitled. That's not about money. That's about character. Machiavelli saw this in courts and kingdoms. He wrote that the prince who rewards a servant too quickly breeds arrogance, but the one who tests loyalty with small responsibilities finds out the truth early. That way, betrayal is discovered while it's still cheap. Imagine two merchants. Both start from nothing. The first grows his business fast and hires partners out of excitement. He trusts words, charm, and promises. The second tests every man he works with. He starts small, gives them limited tasks, small sums to manage, and he watches. One treats every coin as sacred, going to careful, transparent, loyal. The other cuts corners, hides details, excuses losses. Now fast forward 10 years. The first merchant is surrounded by thieves wearing smiles. The second is surrounded by allies who've been tested in fire. The difference between the two isn't intelligence or luck. It's that one understood the litmus test, that money reveals more than it corrupts, because when you give someone access to power, even a drop, their real self begins to surface. Some rise, some rot. This principle goes beyond business. It's about reading souls. How someone treats money that isn't theirs tells you everything. Their patience, their gratitude, their greed. Machiavelli believed that even kindness can be a strategy, but only if you know who you're being kind to. He warned rulers never to trust those who only act loyal when the gold is flowing. Real loyalty shows up when the reward is delayed, uncertain, or small. Apply that to your world. Before you partner with someone, before you invest, before you share your secrets, give them something small. Then step back. Their reaction will write their character in bold letters. If they treat a small responsibility carelessly, imagine what they'll do with a fortune. If they show integrity when no one is watching, you found gold rarer than money itself. This test is cold, but it's fair. It protects your empire from those who would burn it, and from your own illusions about who deserves your trust. So how do you apply the litmus test in today's world? Test before you trust. Don't offer partnership access or large sums to untested people. Start small in a short project, a limited deal. Observe, don't assume. Watch for patterns, not performances. Anyone can act grateful once. True character reveals itself in repetition, how they behave when money's tight, when pressure rises, when eyes aren't on them. Never ignore small red flags. If someone disrespects a small favor, breaks a minor promise, or hides a small truth, they'll multiply that behavior when the stakes are higher. Betrayal always whispers before it screams. And finally, remember, you're not trying to expose people to humiliate them. You're testing reality to protect your sovereignty, because power is built not just on what you create, but on who you allow inside your walls. Machiavelli once wrote that a prince who cannot see men as they truly are will soon be ruled by them. In wealth, the same holds true. Money is not just a tool for freedom. It's a mirror. It reflects the truth about you and about everyone around you. So the next time you hand someone a small opportunity, remember, You're not being generous, you're being wise. You're lighting a candle in a dark room to see who stands in the shadow with clean hands, and who waits with a dagger. The litmus test never fails. It only reveals who deserves to stand beside your throne, and who is only pretending to serve it. Point 5. The autonomy engine builds systems that render you unnecessary. If your empire collapses the moment you rest, you never built an empire. You built a cage and called it freedom. Machiavelli once warned princes of a fatal illusion, to believe their strength lay in their own hands. A kingdom that depends on the constant attention of one ruler is not a kingdom. It's a hostage situation. And yet in our time, how many of us live like that? The entrepreneur who cannot sleep because the business will stop. The professional whose income dies the day they stop working. The influencer who must post daily or vanish. These are not rulers. These are laborers in disguise. Machiavelli would see them and whisper, "You have built a palace without an heir, because true power, true wealth, is not in what you control personally, but in what continues to thrive without you." Every tyrant, every perfectionist, every workaholic believes they're strengthening their empire by tightening their grip. But the tighter the grip, the weaker the system beneath it. Machiavelli saw this flaw in rulers who ruled by fear alone. When they died, their states collapsed. No structure, no inheritance, just ashes. In the modern world, this same mistake appears differently. We glorify the self-made man, the one who does everything himself. We call him relentless, tireless, unstoppable. But he's not unstoppable. He's unscalable. The first principle of the autonomy engine is to understand that the highest form of control is designing a system that no longer needs control. To build something that functions in your absence is not laziness. It's sovereignty. Machiavelli studied kingdoms. You're going to study your own. Because the structure of a state and the structure of your financial life are identical. The autonomy engine has 3 pillars: automation, delegation, and systematization. Automation. Let machines handle repetition. Your time is currency. Every task that repeats itself, schedule, communication, bookkeeping, should be automated once and forgotten forever. A ruler doesn't polish the swords of his guards. He designs the process so it happens without him. Delegation, trust wisely or drown alone. Machiavelli wrote that a wise prince must rely on capable ministers, not flatterers, not sycophants. In your empire, this means one thing: hire, teach, and trust competent people. And if you cannot trust anyone, then you've failed as a ruler. Because power hoarded out of fear is not strength, it's exhaustion. Systematization, build laws, not habits. A habit depends on your discipline. A system depends on structure. Document every process once, so the work repeats without thought or emotion. Systems don't get tired. Systems don't negotiate. They just run. When these 3 pillars work together, you become the architect and not the worker. The conductor, not the instrument. Think of the modern tycoon who disappears for a year and returns richer than when he left. He is not lucky. He is free. Contrast that with the talented freelancer who earns more than most kings but cannot take a week off. His empire collapses the moment he rests. He's the ruler chained to his own throne. Machiavelli would see this and call it what it is: dependence disguised as ambition. The wise one learns to replace himself piece by piece, not because he's lazy, but because he wants the machine to keep moving when his mind needs silence. Freedom isn't having the power to work anytime you want. Freedom is having the power not to work at all, and still your creation breathes. There's a deeper truth hiding here. When you build systems that run without you, you're not just creating financial freedom. You're confronting your own ego. Most people want to be needed. They want to be the hero, the savior, the only one who can fix things. But that's not mastery. That's addiction. Machiavelli taught that a ruler who must fight every battle himself has already failed in foresight. A true ruler's power lies not in his sword, but in the systems that make the sword unnecessary. Your empire should stand whether you are present or gone. Only then do you own it. Only then have you transcended the need for constant motion, because the one who cannot stop is the one who is still being ruled by his own ambition. Here's how to begin building your autonomy engine. List everything you currently do yourself. Automate what can be done by tools or software. Delegate what can be done by people better or faster than you. Systematize what remains into a written, repeatable structure. Then test it, leave, step away. See what breaks. Fix what failed. Do this until nothing needs your constant hand. That's when you'll know you've built not just a business, but an organism. Something alive, something that grows while you sleep. And when people call you lucky, you'll smile quietly, because you know the truth. Luck favors those who built systems in silence. Closing, power isn't taken. It's built layer by layer in silence. Every system you create, every boundary you enforce, pulls you further from the crowd and closer to control. Most people will keep chasing validation. You'll be busy building influence that outlives attention. Remember, Machiavelli never wrote for the masses. He wrote for the few who dared to rule them. So step quietly, think deeply, and let the world believe you're ordinary, while you move like a prince in plain sight.